God morgen og velkommen til Lysaker, og velkommen til Executive Partner Brief. For deg som ikke kjenner meg, jeg heter Ole Roterud, og jeg leder partneravdelingen i Microsoft Norge. Dette her i dag er en litt sånn first try. Som dere ser så har vi prøvd å plassere dere på en litt annen måte enn vanligvis. For vi ønsker å drive den community-tenken, community-følelsen i økosystemet. Vi vil liksom ikke at dere skal sitte på hver deres rad og skule på hverandre og høre på noen som står og presenterer foran. Vi skal bli bedre kjent alle sammen, sånn at vi kan bli flinkere til å drive samarbeid på tvers. Det er det den nye verden er. Og så ser jeg nå at det er jo fryktelig mange som har lyst til å komme, som har gjort at det har blitt litt trangt her, så bear with us. Vi får være litt tålmodige når vi skal gå inn og ut. Men det blir en bra dag, så det vil være verdt det. For 6 måneder siden så var det mange av dere som var på kickoffet vår nede på sentralen i sentrum, som vi presenterte vår nye organisasjonsmodell og vår nye engasjementsmodell med partnere. 6 måneder har gått. Vi har lært mye. Jeg er sikker på at dere har lært mye. Det har vært noen måneder med frustrasjon, utfordringer. I begynnelsen i hvert fall. Det var nok mange som følte at det var et lite sånn vakuum. Jeg tror ikke vi skal stikke det under en stol. Vi hadde en tøff drive i Microsoft med å finne ut hvordan skal den nye modellen virke, hvordan skal vi mest effektivt jobbe med våre partnere. Og ikke minst, nå i den nye verden så er det utrolig mange nye partnere som har meldt seg på, som ønsker. Så vi har et mye større bilde av partnere som vi ønsker å samarbeide, og som ønsker å samarbeide med oss. Og da gjør jo at kompleksiteten ikke blir noe mindre. Og så føler jeg nå de siste månedene at det begynner å sette seg, og at samarbeidet begynner å bli veldig mye bedre med partnerne våre. Og jeg håper dere føler det samme. Vi sitter i hvert fall og ser at vi har aldri hatt en så stor pipe med våre partnere. Det er den historisk sterkeste pipen sammen med partnere, og det er antall dealer, og det er antall partnere. Samtidig så hadde vi i januar vårt beste CSP-år noen gang. Som tyder, og i hvert fall forteller meg, at økosystemet og partnere våre har en god butikk, at det går fremover, og at samarbeidet går i riktig retning. Vært å treffe mange av dere de siste 6 månedene, og mange andre partnere som ikke er her i dag også, og får mye feedback. Får heldigvis mye god feedback, og vi har mye gode diskusjoner rundt endringen og endringen vi ser ut hos våre felles kunder. En annen diskusjon som vi ofte har er endringen både vi i Microsoft og dere som partnere, er igjennom og står midt i, som en konsekvens av hvordan markedet endrer seg. Og jeg blir ofte utfordret på hva skal vi gjøre, og hvordan skal vi gjøre det. Og som en konsekvens av det så er tema for i dag. Vi har endret litt på agendaen i forhold til det vi sendte ut av dere. Så det er litt sånn surprise, surprise. Derfor er agendaen på dagen i dag det er 2 eksterne foredragsholdere som kommer i dag. For å inspirere, utfordre og gi nye ideer og forhåpentligvis lære bort noe. Så det første foredraget som Jennifer Wessels skal holde for oss handler om hvorfor endringen, hva slags endringer hun ser. Fra Amerika inn i det norske markedet, jobber med ulike aktører i det norske markedet, både kunder og partnere, hva hun ser, og hva det betyr for oss som økosystem, og hva det betyr for dere som partnere og oss som Microsoft. Så det er det som vi vil adressere før pause. Og så har vi gjort pausa litt større enn det var opprinnelig, for at det å bruke et kvarter på å få alle ut gjennom den Mason som blir mellom bordet her, og få deg innat på et kvarter, det er litt overambisiøst. Så blir det en halvtimes pause, så vi får komme ut, få lufta oss litt, tatt ny kaffe og så videre. Og så blir det et nytt foredrag av Tom Atle Herland fra Management Mill etter pausa, hvor Tom Atle adresserer hvordan gjør du det her. Og det er ikke hele fasiten, men det er et eksempel og et konsept som vi har jobbet sammen med Tom Atle og Management Mill over en tid på å se på, for å inspirere og vise eksempler på hvordan man kan drive den endringen. Så jeg håper det er en agenda som vil være inspirerende og utfordrende. De frokostene her som vi har i dag, det er noe vi ønsker å gjøre hvert kvartal fremover. Og for at agendaen da skal være best mulig, så trenger vi feedback. Nå er det egentlig Ole Roterud som har etter beste evne satt opp en agenda han mener er hensiktsmessig i forhold til den feedbacken jeg har fått når jeg snakket med deg. Men vi ønsker feedback fra deg i etterkant, sånn at vi neste gang kan sette opp en agenda som er minst like relevant. Så for å kjøre i gang dagen med å adressere hvorfor og hvordan, så vil jeg gjerne ønske velkommen Jennifer Wessels.
Thank you. It is great to be here and to work with you guys this morning. I met some of you back in September in the partner event, and today we're going to really focus on some practical aspects of what is the future going to look like, what does the future look like today, and what can you do to really move forward in your business with your customers to be even more successful than what you are today. And as I believe Ole said, we decided to sit people in round tables so that you could not only listen to what I have to say, ask me questions, and challenge me, which I invite you to do, but also to talk amongst yourselves. And we'll have some opportunities for you to work together in answering some questions, comparing some notes, and hopefully out of this morning, beginning to build a stronger ecosystem and network with each other. Because the future is changing, the future is a new world, and it really does require collaboration for success. So I should jump back and introduce myself. I'm Jennifer Wessels. I run a company in Silicon Valley called Next Step. And we work with technology companies and their partners and their customers in a lot of cases to really blend together the expertise of 40 people with good knowledge in marketing, sales, people, and leadership. Prior to founding Next Step, I was actually international director for Tandberg here in Oslo and grew their international business. That's when I went back to Silicon Valley, founded Next Step, and today I'm bringing our best practices back to the Nordic market in helping companies deal with change. And one of the things I can say is if I look back 20 years ago to when I was living here, working in Lysaker for Tandberg, to today, one of the most critical things that is dramatically different is the pace and the rate of change in technology. It is unprecedented compared to the past 20, 40, 200 years. And in Silicon Valley, we tend to follow something called Moore's Law. Has anybody heard of Moore's Law? Anybody want to volunteer what it is? You look like you would know. The microprocessor power, computing power, doubles at least every 18 months. Exactly. And this gentleman has just been awarded 100 Next Step bucks that over time he can accumulate that will relate to valuable prizes at the end of the morning session. So as you contribute, you get awarded wonderful prizes. So Moore's Law was a very linear concept for many, many years, this 18 to 24 months doubling. Today, that's gone from linear to exponential. It's growing much faster, and technology innovation, technology ubiquity, and usage is way outside of the charts of what it used to be, which is really a new paradigm. A lot of economists and researchers talk about this being the fourth industrial revolution, or a new shift in how the world works, which it really is, partly driven by the power of technology. Because as we have things like sensor capabilities, we have storage capabilities, we have the power of the compute and the circuitry that can really drive technology to levels that we never even dreamed, even 10 to 20 years ago. the capacity, the capability, and the access is at completely unheard of levels and continues to grow way beyond Moore's Law. It's growing exponentially day over day. And if we think back 10 years ago, 2008, what were some of the things that happened in 2008 that might also play into the pace of change? Anybody remember 10 years ago? It's like a very long time. We have very valuable bucks. The financial crisis, where did that come from? Okay, I'm going to ask you to be trustworthy and pass back. The financial crisis was a huge driver for societal change 10 years ago because it really made all businesses on a global basis think about what they invest in and how they invest. And it really was one of the key points of changing customer requirements. Partly as a result of the financial crisis, companies of all natures started thinking away from big capital expenditure investments and shifted to, well, let's pay as we go because we don't know what the future is going to hold. And so we want to pay for what we use. That was a completely mind shift in the organization and the corporate world. It was one of the contributors to the IT organization and the procurement organizations that many of you might have sold to for years. IT and procurement began to lose power and control because they were used to having the big CapEx budgets and having the relationships to bring in this technology that was a black box to everyone else. Suddenly, the business unit decision makers, the chief marketing officer, the division VP, they had small budgets to buy what they needed when they needed it. And that was the beginning of the as-a-service model. In 2008, we were working very closely with Adobe. And partly due to the financial crisis having an impact on budgets and other factors, Adobe chose in 2008 to make that shift to everything will be cloud in the future and to move to as a service because their marketing buyers had small budgets to use their software, whereas IT no longer had the big budgets for every 18 months new software upgrades. So it was really a changing dynamic. The other thing that started to really be a tipping point in 2008 was the growth of the next generation of buyers in the workplace. The quote-unquote millennial generation. The people that were coming into jobs at age 22 to 24 and are today moving into positions of power. The 32 to 35-year-olds that are really the first generation in the workplace that are digital natives. How many of you have hired a under 35-year-old person recently? Just almost everybody. Do they look at the world a little bit differently than the 55-year-old you might have hired? Yeah. What are some of the differences? Speed? Where did I hear that one? Okay. Speed in what way?
No, they want everything to happen like really quickly.
Yeah. They have no patience, if you could pass back to her. They want what they want when they want it. And that is also the characteristic of your customer that might be the 35-year-old. They want what they want at the moment. They're not going to wait for you to create a long proposal and IT to get a capital budget and all of this. They want on demand immediately as I want it. And that is also shifting the dynamic of selling technology, because these people understand technology, they know what they want, they are going to find it of their own nature. So, huge shift in that respect, which also leads to the question of global competition. People will find the technology they need from wherever they seek it. They will also find the services and the service providers that they need from wherever they seek it. So the concept of barriers to entry to a market, and we're protected because we're the only one in this area, those concepts are long gone in today's world, because people can use the power of their mobile to find what they want. That ultimately, in all markets, creates more price pressure, creates more competition, and raises the bar for what you're actually delivering. And that ultimately says, for all of us as business owners, we need to really look to define how we're going to create sustainable long-term economic value, which is different today in this ever-changing world of pay-as-you-go, business decision makers, global competition, pay for what I want, when I want it, immediately. That's very different than in the past. Would you all agree that these dynamics are happening here? Would you agree that it's increasing in the pace of change and the vortex of these things coming together? So in that respect, I see a number of nods. We, I believe, are past the question where we were in September of why change? So now it's a question of what to change and when to change, as well as how to change. And the what's that we're going to talk about this morning will be things such as, how can you offer more services? How can you be a better business partner to that business decision maker instead of solely a IT provider to IT? We'll also start to talk about the wins, because as I understand in this market, there's a lot of need for IT. Just about every company we talk to, they're talking about digitalization and investments and more in that arena. That, in many cases, means this is a great time for you all as technology solution providers and service providers. It's a great time for you to look at making changes. Because when the market is up, when things are going well, is the best time to introduce new ideas, new concepts, new services. Sometimes it's easy when things are going up. It's easy to be complacent and just kind of ride the wave. But this vortex of change is happening, which would lead me to suggest that this is the time to jump off of the wave in small steps and begin to innovate and do things differently. One of the examples that we use a lot when companies say, well, why do we change now when things are going well, is Netflix. You all familiar with Netflix? So back probably within the last 10 years, Netflix had, and I should note that Netflix as a company, their vision and their mission was to deliver the right content to people wherever they are in the world. So they had the vision of, we'll give you the content you want and need from wherever you are. Their first business model happened to be sending DVDs to people's homes through the mail. I mean, their mission was delivering content. The way they did it initially was shipping DVDs. At the time when they were at the peak of their revenue and at the peak of their stock price, they recognized shipping DVDs is not going to be a long-term sustainable way to do this. And so they disrupted their own business model, in essence, by introducing the concept of streaming video. Let's actually allow the person to use their device at home to get access to the content instead of shipping the DVD. Some people said they were pretty crazy in doing that because they're cutting out the need for DVDs. Well, their mission was to deliver content. They just simply did it through DVDs for a period. And if you look at the stock and where Netflix is today, is way beyond where they were 8 years ago in making that shift. So it can be a good example of why change when you're at the top. You've got the reserves, you've got the momentum, and ultimately, this vortex of change, you will go down at some point. So be ahead of the curve. Which leads to how to change. And as Ole mentioned, Tom will get into more of the details after this session. But the best way to begin to answer this question of how to change, from our experience, is to listen to your customers. Because if there's a consistency from the past to the future, the customer is the number one factor that you're serving. You're all in a service business ultimately. So your success is dependent upon the customer. And with all of the dynamic changes in the world, the role of the customer is even more important now than it's ever been. Because the customer, maybe that 35-year-old that speed and impatience is driving, they have in their mobile the power to access whatever they want, and they're going to look for what they want at the moment they need it. Over the last 9 to 12 months, I've spent a lot of time here in Norway and actually been working with a number of partners of Microsoft and Adobe and Autodesk and others, but I've also been working with and talking to a lot of your customers. And the thing that I have observed in doing that is the customers here, just like everywhere, are asking for and demanding responsive, quick service. They want personalization. They want to be treated as though they are the king of the kings. They want to be able to give technology capabilities to their customers in an easy, personalized, frictionless way. And more, they are asking for help in how do we connect technology and business results. And that's both when I speak with people on the IT side, but also on the business side. The chief marketing officer, the head of sales, the chief procurement, as well as the business unit leaders. They're really struggling with technology and business coming together. Because the buying power is in the hands of those business decision makers, some of whom are technologically savvy, some of whom may not be. And they need to help in connecting the two. Is that consistent with what you all are seeing out there? And hearing from customers? It's got to be more than just technology for technology's sake, which means the role of the channel, the role of the partner, needs to shift very quickly to address the demands of the customer. Back 10 years ago, many of you might have been product deliverers. You would get the software, you would resell it, and you would go and install it. And that, historically, in all technology, was a pretty good business. I mean, you had a reasonable amount of margin. The more you sold, the more you made Ole happy, the more money you made. But that we have certainly seen to shift. And as companies provide as a service software capabilities or as a service technology infrastructure, that need for product delivery goes away, which is where many partners invested in solution selling and how can we add services, how can we do time and materials to help you use the capabilities to move into more of a trusted supplier role, which is hopefully where most of you all see yourselves today. Would you agree? A trusted supplier to your customers? That you bring the technology to them, help them implement it, and support them. Ultimately, the most successful in the future will actually move further up that curve to be a true innovation partner. And an innovation partner is the organization that matches technology with business. You help the customer implement the right technology in the right way and manage and measure and track to deliver real business results. And are constantly seeking new ways to help your customer really grow their business. That's an innovation partner. And an innovation partner is really looked at by the customer as a true business advisor and an indispensable resource that they will pay money for, having capability to access, having the knowledge that's really helping them grow the business. That's a different paradigm and a different role than being a trusted supplier of technology that we call them when we need an upgrade, or we call them when we need some new licenses, or we call them when we have a problem and they come out and do stuff for us. It's we have a partnership with Company A that is critical to our long-term success. They're part of our strategy. They're part of our direction. They're bringing advisement. Yes, they bring technology and they fix problems, but more importantly, they're an integral part of our business. That's the innovation partner side. And to get there, there's a variety of steps that one needs to go through. And it doesn't happen overnight to go from being the delivery person to being the time and materials technology expert to being an advisor. One of the companies that we've worked with for many years, in addition to Adobe, which I mentioned, one of their partners is a company called CDW. Has anybody heard of CDW? Yeah, they're a big player primarily in the Americas market. And CDW, based in Chicago, Illinois, is been around 100 years, really grew up in the technology world long before technology was what it is today. Anybody know what the C, D, and W actually stand for? This is worth big money, big money. 500 here. Any guesses of what CDW stands for? Computer is the first. Computer Discount Warehouse. That's really where they started, as a product delivery, cheapest price, and their tagline was, "We deliver IT." We deliver it to you quickly and efficiently. Cheap, quick, and efficient. So as all of these paradigm shifts kind of started to happen, CDW was in an interesting place because their whole entire business, and in 2008 they were something like 10,000 people in their business. Their whole business was built on this product delivery. And as Adobe was their first big partner that says, "Sorry, we don't need you to do product delivery anymore. We're going to provide as a service the software directly to the end customer," CDW had to take a step back and think, okay, what do we do? We have to change. We don't have a choice. And they first started by looking at, how can we evolve from being the cheapest, quickest delivery to, we have 10,000 people that have relationships via phone to thousands of customers. Let's become the people that connect IT to you. And so they really focused on solution selling, building people skills, refining their customer base so that an account manager would manage 10 to 100 accounts and really get to know them. That was the beginning of a huge shift, such that over the last 2 to 3 years, CDW, and they've just simply taken that out because it's known now that CDW is the place that you can call, have a business relationship with an account manager that knows you, and they can provide advisement in verticals, in business areas, advisement specifically for your business, in what technology to use, and then connect you to the right vendors for it. So their value over the last 10 years has shifted dramatically from delivery quick and cheap to business relationship, often at strategic levels in large corporations, through a deep understanding of the customer's business needs, in some cases vertical needs, and then having access to a wide array of technology that they can bring in. And if you look at their stock value from where it was in 2008 to where it is today, it's about a 400% increase in shifting the mentality and the mindset. The other real advantage long-term for CDW is their employees are a lot more satisfied and engaged today because the employees are business advisors. They are valued by their customers. They are strategic. They're not just simply the guy I call when I want a cheap PC. It's a completely different shift in mindset. It doesn't happen overnight. And in the CDW journey, it was about 2 to 4 years of investment, shifting, focusing, verticalizing, building expertise, and really teaching and implementing very good customer relationship skills. If there's one key recommendation I would have of what each of you can do when you get back from this morning's session, is think about your account managers, your salespeople, your service people. How deeply do they really understand their customers? And it's not just what their customers use IT technology, it's understand the business need, because that's really where the value is in connecting those two things together. And that's where you move from selling a product at a price and getting a small margin on top of what a Microsoft or a Cisco or whoever could sell it. You move from that, and you actually move from time and materials, sending somebody out to do an IT job. You move to where you're a business advisor with potentially a reoccurring service fee for ensuring your customer has the right technology, has the right business utilization of it, and is optimizing their business through technology. It's a real shift in mindset. It's been interesting in some of the conversations I've had with end customers here in Norway over the last 6 months, because I've seen a real shift in the responses of buyers. 6 to 12 months ago, many of them were saying, we really are happy with our supplier, and we want to pay as we go on time and materials for services. If we need something, we'll call them. In the last 3 to 6 months, starting to see that shifting to where buyers, and that could be the business side or it could be the IT side, say, yes, we want to be able to call somebody to fix something. But when the real value of our supplier starts is when they actually help us optimize and utilize and see the business implication of technology and how it is helping our business be more successful. That we would pay extra money for. So there is a huge opportunity, I believe, to get to a much higher level of innovation partner and value add from a business service point of view. Agreements, disagreements. Remember, I said I invite you to challenge me. Are you all seeing these shifts? Yeah. Are you starting to make the shift to be a true business advisor to your customers? You starting to? We'll have some time that you'll be able to dialogue here shortly with each other to get some ideas, to get some concepts of how to actually do this. Because it's really all about the customer relationships. And I'm sure each of you as businesses know your customers well. The question is, how can you deepen that knowledge from a business viewpoint? How can you bring into your own team the right resources that can ultimately give you deeper awareness of either their industry, and I know some companies here are specializing by industry, and that's a very good path to go, or possibly you could specialize in what we call a horizontal area. We are the experts in AI as applied to public sector, or we are the best to go to if you want infrastructure in healthcare. Because the more you can specialize in an area, the more true credibility and business knowledge you can build that really allows you to have that focused customer relationship. And if I think about the CDW example, that's probably the most clear, tangible takeaway from their transition, is they went from being everything in technology for everybody that wants it cheap and quick to having very clear specialties. We are the place to go to in retail. We are the provider in manufacturing in this area, and structuring their account management, structuring their services in defined areas so that they can really deliver the customer relationship and the knowledge. And the other element that goes into this is by focusing, you not only have a deeper customer relationship, you can leverage and work with them in the business intelligence that is part of the positive of the technology shift, that as your customers use as a service, you have insight into what they're using. You have insight into how their utilization fits with other customers, and you can really leverage that insight to best apply the business relationship. So it's combining both aspects, how you use technology to serve your customer, how you build the knowledge to go deeper with potentially fewer customers, ultimately, that are giving you a higher revenue rate. So focus, focus, focus is a key part of what we would suggest, which kind of starts with defining the first question of what do you, as a business owner or leader, what do you really see as your company's mission and goal, and define your role as a result of that. I mentioned Netflix, and Netflix is a good example of a company that had a mission and a goal, which was to deliver content to their customers wherever they were. And they defined a business model at the time they launched, a business model that would allow them to achieve that goal, i.e. the DVDs. They ultimately changed that business model and service to streaming, and now to creating their own branded content. But it was all done under the umbrella goal and mission of deliver content people want, when they want it, where they want it. Everything they've done has fit under that goal and mission. So I would challenge you to think a bit about your business in identifying what is your goal and mission. I doubt that many of you, if you're the founders or you're leader in the company, I doubt that many of you had the mission when you established your company of sell Microsoft stuff. You might have, but you probably had a little bit broader mission and goal to connect businesses to technology, to change the way healthcare grows in Norway. Maybe it's to put my kids through school and travel for nice vacations. And that's okay. But in order to define how to change, or even what to change, to succeed in tomorrow's world, I would suggest you got to start with knowing what your goal is. Because if your goal is to change the way healthcare is delivered in Norway, there's a lot of ways you could structure your business to be an innovation partner to your customers to achieve that. If your goal is to make enough money to have nice vacations for the next 5 years, you'd probably structure your business a different way to achieve that. And there's no right or wrong goals or missions. But in order to define how to change, you really need to start with, what are we trying to achieve? And then you can begin to define the business model or the service that is going to be most relevant and successful in getting you to that goal. Does that make sense? I often see companies that kind of get caught up the other way. It's, well, what product should we offer tomorrow? Well, it depends. It depends on where you're going. Should we do time and materials? Should we do an ongoing service fee? It depends on what you're trying to achieve. So think about, and you'll have some time in your table groups to dialogue about missions and goals, and think about that aspect. Then you jump to, how do I define my solution and what I offer and my business model? Heavens! When we get to the point of activity and we need you to be quiet, we will use this, but it's the first time I've done that. So focus your solution around your mission, and that can vary dramatically on whether it's vertical, horizontal, whether it's local, whether it's international. There's a lot of different options, and as well as the service model. And in doing so, recognize that you can leverage one another as an ecosystem. If we think back 10 years ago, when potentially many of you were kind of like CDW, offering any technology to anybody that wants it, I could imagine that, because Norway is a fairly small market, you'd come in a room like this and you might look at each other as competitors, because we're all trying to grab every customer we can and sell them technology. In today's world, if each of your businesses are going to focus and be an expert with a certain set of customers, achieving a certain mission and vision, you're each defining yourself in a different way from the next company. You're really being specialist in what you as a company do well, which more than likely will be different than what the next company does well, which opens up a whole new opportunity for you as Microsoft partners in a small market to learn together and to work together in order to be specialist in your area while leveraging another company where you need to bring additional service to your customer. So if you're specializing in AI for healthcare and you need dynamics in one of your customers, if that's not something you offer, why not bring in another partner that does that? That allows you to be the specialist, the innovation partner, the owner of that account, while leveraging others in a new way. And in the Adobe CDW example, that was one of the big outcomes that came from their transition. Is in the past, every partner in the world considered CDW a huge competitor because they were the cheap people that you went to get the third quote and they get it to you quickly. in today's world, most of the other partners see CDW as a great collaboration opportunity because CDW has defined these are the areas in which we work. All of these other areas we don't work. And we actually want to bring in smaller partners to our customers where needed. So it's a huge collaboration within the ecosystem. Because ultimately, the value that each of your businesses bring is around the customer relationship. When you are at the strategic management level with your customer, they're inviting you to the board meeting. They're building your review of their business plan for next year. They're building that into their whole process. You're at a completely different level than being the guy we call when we need a new license. It's much more strategic as you're bringing innovation into their business. And that would be the first place to focus. And as part of that, building the knowledge and the skills to do this strategic customer relationship management, as well as the business knowledge of your customers, does require an investment. Which is why now, while things are going well, is the best time to make that shift. Because when things are going well is the time you had the funds to be able to invest for a future. And I know the phrase here is winter is coming, and I think winter certainly came last night when I was walking to the grocery and about froze to death. But it made me realize that I was very glad that for the first time living here on and off for 25 years, first time I actually had on yesterday wool pants under my pants and spikes on my shoes. I was prepared and I was a lot happier than a year ago. So invest while it's good because you may need it in another 1 to 5 years as this vortex continues to change. And we'll go to the workshop here in just a minute. Well, before I do that, anyone, do you have questions? I'm sure somebody has questions. In fact, a good question will actually award the 500 important bucks. Somebody has got to wonder something. What I bought at the grocery yesterday. Do you have questions?
I can have is one question for me. You know.
Okay.
Going back to the CDW example here, you know, one thing is seeing the change, designing the change. Another thing is actually doing the change.
Yep.
And as we all know, in change, people are involved.
Yes.
And people also need to change in that kind of what kind of learning can you share to the people in the room on that notion, you know, how to really execute on your plans to make it happen? Yes.
Few points, both from CDW as well as Adobe itself, that has gone through a huge 10-year shift. A few points. One is recognize it's going to take time. The transition from being, let's say, a trusted supplier to an innovation partner, that is a 2 to 5 year transition. And so as you think about how you're going to develop your people, meaning training them in business knowledge and skills, structuring bonuses, incentives, compensation to support new behaviors, focusing account ownership and capabilities, which means they don't get to do everything for everybody. They need to be experts on certain areas. As you do those things, it's a 2 to 4 year period. It's not overnight. So plan a ongoing process. Train, incentivize, coach, train a bit more. Follow up, reward, recognize, train a bit more. It's step by step. And generally what we see after about a year and a half of training, coaching, incentives, people start to recognize, oh yeah, this is actually a lot more interesting to be strategic, to be looked at as a partner, to be knowledgeable about less things, but more knowledge, to be engaged. This is actually fun. And it's every organization, every person is different, but it's usually at about the 1.5 to 3 year point you see that real shift from pushing them along to people really want to change and grow. The other tactical thing I would suggest in that process is you start a change process with a small defined group. If you've got 200 employees, identify 10 to 20 that are innovative in thinking, that want to develop. Maybe it's a few of those millennials that are impatient to get to the next role. Identify this small group. Make them heroes and help them develop, and then others will want to be part of that. Start small and then scale from that point. But it takes time and it takes patience. And that's actually part of what we do in this market is we do a lot of what I call inspiration workshops, where we work with companies in bringing employees together to help them see the possibilities. What are the opportunities? What's the positive of change and moving into this new world? And then we can also provide training, support on the incentives and the compensation and the business model structuring. But a lot of where we see the need right now is just at the inspiration level. Let's get our people all open to change, and then we'll define the right set of people to work through that change process. So I had threatened we're going to make you talk to each other, and we are. So I've got 9:30. Let's take about 15 minutes for you to talk to your colleagues and peers around the table around these 3 questions. Just to reflect and chat with each other, get to know each other a bit of where the mission and the focus is. You might find you have common customers and opportunities that you could collaborate better on just through that process. And then think about and talk to each other about what are you, and that's this thing. Are you a delivery person? Are you a supplier? Are you an innovation partner? And what might you do as a business owner or leader to be better positioned for future success? So about 15 minutes to chat, and then we'll ask for people to share for big bucks.